This is With the First Pick, the CBS Sports NFL Draft Podcast. This is episode 79. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. And today is Tuesday, which means it's time for our favorite segment, Rick, Pop or Drop, where we highlight some of the top performances from last week's college games. And man, there were a lot. And there's also the Pop or Drop Pro Edition, which is a fancy way of saying we're ranking our top 5 NFL rookie performances too. And of course, no rookie conversation would be complete without looking at the 3 first-round quarterbacks. So we'll do that too. Rick, I was complaining before the podcast. I want to get your number on this. Debo gives us a lot of homework over the weekend. How many hours did you spend preparing for this podcast?
Probably 5.
Okay, that's low. I worked harder than that. So you're smarter than me. You have a little more experience. I haven't been this busy since like high school. I didn't prepare for the SATs. Last time I studied, I don't remember that when that was. Let me put it to you that way.
So JMU might not have been that hard to get a degree from. Do you have to go all the way back to high school to say that you worked this hard?
Wait, did you say I went to JMU?
Or wherever you went, it's all the same. An East Coast school in Virginia area.
Oh, that's all right. Close enough. Debo, meanwhile, the college guy doesn't know where his co-host went to college. I went to college with a little guy named...
Right?
There you go. William Mary, Mike Tomlin, and of course, Sean McDermott. 2 young men who had very rough weekends. We won't talk about their performances because they don't have any rookies on that squad. But
see, the JMU is a little jab at Bill and Mary alum.
Yeah, no, it is because William Mary is obviously the better school. And quickly, William Mary's the second oldest school in the country, 1693, after only which college?
Speaking of numbers, you did announce that there's only 226 days until the NFL draft.
The answer, of course, is Harvard. You just neglected to answer the question. All right, Rick, let's keep this train going. We got a lot to do here. Let me ask you this. What was your lasting memory from last weekend's chock fullness of football? Was it the way Monday Night Football began and ended? Was it your Detroit Lions balling out in the first game of the season and a great win over Kansas City? Or was it even Shedeur Sanders and his continuing ascent as a fantastic football player who has a long future ahead of him?
It's overload because
it really is.
Every time you see something, wow, that's phenomenal, or that's fascinating, or I can't believe that, and then something tops that, and then something tops that on the college side, and Texas going into Alabama and doing what they.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah. That's why football, NFL, college is the #1 sport, is because of all of the excitement, all of the unpredictability that happens week in and week out. And maybe they should blow up that stadium, MetLife Stadium in New York. I mean, the Giants got blown out on Sunday night.
I think it's haunted.
Goes down after 4 offensive snaps. That is they need to get someone there to take the curse or the jinx off of that stadium the way it went this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. They need some major league Jabu wins. Anti-jinx medicine for sure. Another performance, of course, is Tua Tagovailoa balled out. And let me ask you this quickly, and then we'll get to some other NFL quarterback news. Right now, Joe Burrow makes $55 million a year on average. He's the highest paid player on planet Earth, and at least in the NFL. You have to pay Tua more than 55, or are you concerned about the injuries?
No, I'm still concerned about the injuries, but if Tua plays like he did this past Sunday, and it was great to see him and Herbert go, because that to me was one of the most exciting games of the weekend by far.
Yep.
Not from a defensive standpoint.
Nope.
From 2 quarterbacks, and everybody throws roses at Herbert's feet, but I think Tua deserves some few rose petals as well, the way he played and what he's done in Miami, if he can stay healthy.
Man, some of those throws, both those guys, but some of the throws down the stretch from Tua just took your breath away. And you talked about this over the summer on the podcast where you mentioned it being down there watching him in training camp, and the ball gets out of his hands so quickly. It's among the quickest, certainly in the league right now. Maybe is it one of the quickest releases you've seen in a while?
Well, a lot of it has to do with that style of offense and the timing and how quick. And even we saw the how much better Tua was in this offense. And then we seen it during mini camp. We seen it during the training camp that the ball's even coming out quicker because he doesn't have to think. And the timing he has now with Waddle, with Tyreek Hill, it's incredible to watch. And some of the throws that he made in that game, it's all timing. and it's all trusting that the receiver will be there where the ball is going. And not to give you a little tease, but that is why some of these rookie quarterbacks, we'll discuss later in the show, struggled the first week.
Yep, that's right. By the way, if you missed it last week, Rick and I made our Rookie of the Year predictions. Check that out to see if we got off to a good start. I don't remember your picks. I remember my picks. I'm batting 1,000.
Yeah, well, Bijan Robinson was a given. I gave you the low-hanging fruit since you've been getting your arse kicked every week.
Hey, man.
That had to give you that one.
Thank you.
But I would say this, who we named, I think all of them had performed well. I think I went with, if I recall, Jack Campbell, who he needs to play more snaps because he had an impact.
He did have an impact for sure.
And I think that, and Jahmyr Gibbs had an impact.
Didn't play a lot either.
but that's going to change. I believe that he will get more touches because of how explosive of a playmaker he is. But I think we went with Jack Campbell was my defensive rookie of the year, and my offensive rookie of the year was Addison, who actually had a pretty good game himself, had his first touchdown catch and
deep touchdown throw. I was watching that. You saw it too, but I don't know what was going on with the coverage there, but Kirk Cousins saw what to do, threw a bomb, and it was an easy catch for Jordan Addison.
And if I was betting and I would have put $1, we'll see, I could have won $2,200, right? Because it's 22 to 100 plus 22.
I think it's $22,000.
Exactly. Yeah, it might be 2.2 million. We'll do the math.
Because Debo, if there's anything Rick needs, it's more money. All right, later this week, Rick, hold on to your toupee because it's mock draft time.
I can't wait.
This is our first mock draft since just after the 2023 NFL draft back in early May, and it's sure to be the first of millions to come over the next what's that?
226 days.
You got it, baby. All right. Finally, if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a prospect's name, we'll evaluate that player in an upcoming show. We've gotten a ton of responses. Love the idea, Debo. Keep them coming. And by the way, we're going to do our first evaluation on today's show. So 5-star review.
Let's clarify something, Ryan.
Yeah, please.
It has to be attached to a 5-star rating. You can't be giving us 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 stars. It has to be a 5-star rating, and we promise to review.
We will definitely get through them if they're 5 stars for sure.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, of course.
I ran into Debo Sunday over at the CBS headquarters in Fort Lauderdale, and he was trying to show me how to do the 5-star review on my phone.
Oh, God.
Which was about a 15-minute conversation that I just said, never mind. We'll figure it out down the road.
Wait a second. You already have the podcast app built into the phone. All you do is type in with the first.
I know, but I had to try to type in with the first pick, and I couldn't find with the first pick because I wasn't on the internet. And then then I had to take off the internet because it's like Fort Knox on the internet in the headquarters. And I had to go to the cellular service, and that was taking too long. And then I went, and then I was like, this is so hard. It's even harder than trying to put Paramount Plus on your TV.
Debo, this was a man who ran the Vikings for over 10 years.
I had Peoples.
He had Peoples.
If you had to guess, Ryan, and you've been around him, how do you think like Rick types on his phone?
Actually, I remember sitting we had lunch after the Will Levis Pro Day at the counter there at that hipster restaurant, had a good lunch, and I was showing him how to tweet. Are you a hunt and pecker on the keyboard?
Yeah, I am a hunt and pecker on the keyboard.
It took us a minute to get that tweet out because we were talking about the prospects. So that's my lasting memory. That and Rick actually finally had some good coffee. So Devo just threw up his hands and walked away is what I'm understanding.
It was a very frustrating 15 minutes together.
So listen, it might take you 15 minutes.
Am I that bad? Really?
It wasn't your best effort, but this is a team. We're going to work together through all this. Paramount Plus, finding the podcast app. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, so we help you with the technological stuff, and you're the comp guy because apparently my comps aren't up to snuff.
Yeah, everybody has a role in this podcast here, and apparently my role is not IT. In fact, IT used to call me down. Please try to break this after they built this code or whatever. I don't know how many times I went down there and pushed like 3 buttons and the whole thing blew up. I didn't even know what I was pushing. You're
like Homer Simpson in the nuclear plant. You're just following buttons and blowing things up. All right, that sounds about right. All right, Rick, let's get to it. We got a lot to cover. Good Lord. Woo-wee. All right, let's start back at MetLife Stadium and just get your reaction as a former NFL general manager with more than 30 years of experience, including the last decade in Minnesota, of course. Man, oh man, what are you doing 4 plays in when Aaron Rodgers goes down and you're Joe Douglas?
I wish I can put into words the sick feeling you have in your gut and the tingling that goes through your body after you just spent the whole offseason building this roster up, making a trade for Aaron Rodgers. Everything's in place to make a Super Bowl run, and within 4 plays, it just vanishes. Now, give them credit. Last night, they did a phenomenal job still beating the Buffalo Bills. And, you know, not that we're going to get into veteran quarterbacks, but Josh Allen did not play very well, to say the least, last night. Probably cost them the game. And I think going forward, once you get over that initial shock wave that goes through your body, again, a tribute to the New York Jets and finding a way after trying to deal with that emotional loss to find a way to still win that ball game last night in overtime, you know, by the walk-off punt return for a touchdown. So, but there's a lot going on today, more time than I have for this podcast on what we're going to do going forward. But it'll be interesting to see, because you have to look whether any of these street guys out there, you're going to probably bring them in for workouts, a la Carson Wentz or maybe a Colt McCoy as a backup. But do you go after a trade? How much are you willing to give up on a trade? Because the price of tea is very expensive this time of year.
Price of tea? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
We used to say the price of poker just went up.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's amazing how supply and demand are different during different times of the year. And
well, let me ask you about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that I want to make a point is the New York Jets did everything to get that roster. They got a championship caliber defense. They got a perennial Pro Bowl receiver. They added Dalvin Cook to go along, and Breece Hall looked like he was back rolling again.
Yes,
the hole in this roster, and we've talked about this, is the offensive tackle position. And if you look last night, the oldest offensive tackle in the league got the oldest quarterback in the league out probably for the year with an Achilles tendon tear.
Yeah, and Mekhi Becton had some issues early on. I didn't watch him closely throughout the game, so hopefully he got better. But at this point, it doesn't matter for Aaron Rodgers' purposes. As Debo just put on the screen, if you're listening to the audio version, the Jets have made it have tweeted out that Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. So the Achilles tear is a complete tear. Not great. And you talked about the quarterback situation in terms of the backup. Zach Wilson's there. There's no other quarterback on the roster unless I'm missing one.
They have is Boyle on their practice squad?
Let's see. Practice squad. They have Tim Boyle. Yep. Yes, indeed. So he's on the practice squad in terms of the active roster last night, just 2 quarterbacks. Zach Wilson obviously came in. You talked about Debo's guy, Carson Wentz, which is funny because Debo's still propping him up, and Colt McCoy. And what else?
Well, if you're going to go down through teams' practice squads, you're going to go on potential trades. And do you go, let's go to, for example, Debo's Philadelphia Eagles. Do you move Marcus Mariota because of the way McKee played in the preseason? But to me, it's quite evident that whoever you go after, and if I was in that situation and you're asking yourself 1,000 questions, do they have to be familiar with the system? Does it have to be a veteran, or can you go after a young guy? Is Zach Wilson is going to have to be our starting quarterback going forward? So we're going to have to tailor a game plan that fits him, which is probably different than what they had a game plan going in last night to fit Aaron Rodgers. But the number one priority for me is that quarterback better have some mobility, because a quarterback that is going to be a statue in the pocket with those offensive tackles, in my opinion, and they have to play, are going to have some issues.
Okay, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first question is, tell me which of these quarterbacks you would want. And we can throw in Carson Wentz, who has some mobility. Colt McCoy can run around a little bit. But some other names that have been thrown out there, Mitch Trubisky, Jacoby Brissett, Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke, they all started last year for their previous teams. I don't know what the price of poker is in terms of trading for those guys. Any of those guys interest you more than the others if you're looking for a starter / backup?
Yeah, that's what you're doing right now. You're doing a deep dive into all those quarterbacks, and you're having the conversations with the ownership. You're having a conversation with the head coach, with the offensive coordinator. Identify what we have to go get going forward, because you have to know what you want to go get, and then do all the tape work on them, have the coaches look at them, and then let's do whatever we have to do, because we have a very good football team. And this was the same situation we were in with Teddy Bridgewater back in 2017.
That's my next question.
And we wanted to go, because of the football team that we had in place, that we went very aggressive to go get Sam Bradford. So the New York Jets, I think, have a championship caliber defense. They have the weapons that we talked about earlier in the show. The offensive tackles are an issue, and they've been an issue, and we've talked about them numerous times throughout training camp. But identify whether it's a trade, whether it's one of those guys, or whether it's a practice squad guy, and then go do what you have to do because of where your football team is right now. If you were, let's say, for example, the Arizona Cardinals, you may not be as aggressive because their roster may not be in the same place right now that the New York Jets are in.
Although they played with a little heart in that game in Washington as well. So just quickly, let's talk about the Teddy Bridgewater thing. That happened before the 2016 season, I believe. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had a few weeks before the start of the season, so slightly better situation in terms of restocking the roster, but not a great situation because Teddy was going to be your guy. Tell me this. So you went out and you traded at least a first-round pick for Sam Bradford, and how many times did other GMs laugh at your original trade proposal because they knew they had you over a barrel?
Well, I wouldn't say laugh. I would say chuckle.
Because you are literally in the water, swimming with sharks around you, and you desperately need to get out of the water.
And it's the same. It's the question. Oh, feel so bad for you. Well, are you willing to move this guy? Yeah. Well, what's the price? What? It's like it's like. It's amazing. You have friends in this business, and you have we're pretty close-knit circle, the GMs, because everybody knows everybody, and you've done business with everybody for such a long time. But it's amazing when I feel bad for you as a friend, but now I put on my business hat. This is what's going to cost you.
So, but you would do the same thing if the tables were turned, though. You can't give your friend a break for the sake of
because you're competing against them.
Right, absolutely. So whatever happens here outside of the organization is probably going to cost the Jets a little money. There is one upside, and I mean, it's the dimmest of glimmers, if you will. When the Jets and the Packers made this trade back in April, it stipulated the Jets would send a 2024 second-round pick to the Packers if Rodgers played fewer than 65% of the snaps. Otherwise, they've been a first-round pick. So in that sense, the Jets don't have to give up their 2024 first-round pick. They still have that. And it looks like the Packers will now get the second-round pick, which is the Packers, whatever. They'll take it. But I think in that sense, at least there's a first-rounder still in the Jets' future. And look, man, they may be taking a quarterback.
They may have to.
So, all right. That's that. Crazy Town, USA. If you're the Jets, great win for the Jets. You talked about Josh Allen. He actually did say after the game he was the reason they lost that game. And I think everyone that was watching would agree with that. But a lot of football left, as I say, Rick. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at our popper drops from the college football weekend. All right, Rick, going to Colorado. I mean, we said that exactly 0 times last year, and we have been talking up the Buffs this year for obvious reasons. Week 1, they shredded TCU. They didn't shred TCU, but they won that game down in Texas. Last Saturday, they were facing Nebraska, home opener. And at what point are we just going to say that Shedeur Sanders might be one of the best players in college football to the point where he might end up as a top 32-ish pick? I mean, he keeps balling out. He faced a lot more pressure this week against Nebraska. Nebraska's defense gets a lot of credit, no doubt about that. But I thought Shedeur remained poised in the pocket. One of the issues I have with him is that sometimes he tries to extend plays, and I would just like him to throw the ball away, but that's an easy fix. He doesn't put the ball in danger's way. When he needs to step on one, he can throw into tight windows down the field, 15, 20, 25 yards. And his deep ball typically finds the intended target as they're running past people. Where are you on Shedeur in week 2?
Pop. Keep popping him.
Man.
He played good again this week. If I had to pick apart some things, I didn't think he was as effective in the first half because of the pressures that Nebraska was bringing him. He has a tendency to hold the ball. And when you get to the NFL, and we're seeing it with these rookie quarterbacks, because you could have said the same thing about Bryce and about CJ. Anthony Richardson didn't hold the ball. He just ran. But you can't do that in the NFL the way some of these guys hold the ball waiting for guys to come open. The only other maybe small criticism, I don't think he is an elite athlete as far as a scrambler, but and he is a look to throw first before he runs. But there are times where I think that he can make some more plays with his legs.
Yeah, and he actually showed me a little more athleticism than I had seen previously just because he hadn't done it. He can run a little bit in straight lines. He's not going to your point, he's not Anthony Richardson in space, but he's also not Tom Brady.
No, he has enough mobility to buy a second chance. I don't think he's going to be a legitimate scramble threat, but he does have enough athleticism to make probably more plays when he's on the move instead of sitting there trying to hold the ball, though I give him credit for wanting to be a thrower first. Yeah. He does a great job keeping his eyes downfield.
Yeah, 31-42, 393 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a rush touchdown. And he does a good job of staying in the pocket, not drifting in the pocket, to your point, trying to find targets before he ends up escaping and on rare occasions running or, running around the backfield, which I don't like it, but whatever. To your point, Bryce did that. And I thought the 2-point conversion they had in the second half was a fantastic play. He rolled right, threw back across his body. The receiver made a great catch in the end zone, and they stuck it to Nebraska. By the way, Nebraska and Jeff Sims, great athlete, the quarterback. You can't win football games when you turn the ball over. You can't catch a snap on a shotgun snap. When you fumble, silly fumbles. But that's a conversation for another time. That was frustrating to watch, I'm sure, for Matt Rule. But
he did the same thing in the Minnesota game.
Same thing in the Minnesota game. And had the 2 interceptions by our guy Tyler Nubin, who was one of the listeners requested we watch him. I think we both have, so we'll get to him at some point too. He had a good first game against Nebraska for sure. All right, pop Debo for Shedeur. This has been a recurring theme. Is he? He's definitely
for me.
He's top 50. I think he's
the 3rd quarterback for me.
Right? Yeah, I'm not. I'm just close for me. But let me ask you this: he's a top 50 player, right?
The one thing that I will say as we watch all these quarterbacks, that after the first 2, there is going to be a mad scramble through the season because there's about 7 of them.
Yes.
It's going to be a deep quarterback class, but there's about 7 of them that are going to be fighting for who's the 3rd quarterback off the board by the time we get to the draft in 226 days.
That's right. So you got to answer the question. Is he a top 50 guy right now?
Yes.
I think so, man. It's hard not. I don't know what the argument would be that he's not.
No, not now, playing right now. But he's got some, like I said, the big win at TCU, but we got a whole season ahead of us. But after week 2, he's in the top 50, and I think he's a first rounder right now.
Oh, listen, clip it, Debo. So I think this weekend they're playing Colorado State late. I'll watch that game. Never on planet Earth that I think I'll be watching a Colorado State game at 10:30, but I probably will watch that. And then they have Oregon coming up, and they have USC coming up. So we'll learn something. We'll all learn something together. All right, next up. This is going to sound crazy tonight. I think Debo just flushed the toilet. I think Quinn Ewers, I have him ranked a whisker higher than Shedeur right now. That could change, but Quinn slows up Bryce.
Quarterback, you got.
What'd you say?
The 8th. Rated?
No, a whisker higher than Shedeur in terms of my rankings.
Okay.
Yeah, they're neck and neck. Obviously, Shedeur has balled out stats wise better than Quinn, but Quinn slow start against Rice, played better in the second half, and then Alabama. He was pretending like it was Alabama 2022 before he got hurt. Tell me what was wrong with that performance from Quinn Ewers.
Nothing. It was
Man, he popped.
yeah.
So impressive.
The thing that popped, I mean, the accuracy, he's not as athletic, I don't think, as Sanders, but he's a good enough athlete. The accuracy at all levels of the field, and to go on national TV, to be in the spotlight that night, and to go into Alabama, which I can attest is a very, very difficult place to play in, and to perform like he performed. He really made a statement game, and now I'm just anxious to see if he can carry that through, because he made a statement game in Texas before he got hurt.
Yep.
Thought it was going to be a statement game, but when he came back after he was hurt, he wasn't the same quarterback, in my opinion. But if he can take what he did this past Saturday night and continue on the way he played, then he's going to be climbing up a lot of draft boards as well. Everybody's waiting to see what's next.
What's next? That's right. 24-38 for 349 yards, 3 touchdowns against that high-powered Alabama defense. I made some notes here. Consistently throws with anticipation, which, to your point, is what you want at the next level. And he wore out the defenses on those second-level layer throws, as I like to call them. Puts the ball in position for his wide receivers to make plays and makes it tough for the defensive backs to get a hand on it. And he lost 20 pounds, and not the athlete of Shador, as you mentioned, but he can run with some straight line getaway speed if you need to up the middle of the field on a 3rd and 8 and, you know, whatever. But so I think the athleticism is good enough. Kirk Cousins level athleticism, but not the best arm in the country. But man, those deep ball throws are on the money each and every time. And Xavier Worthy and Sanders, Jatavian Sanders, my guy, not your guy, they were wearing out that defense.
Yeah, touch and timing, and he showed that on full display. The only thing, the negative, was he had Worthy deep on one, and he kind of underthrew him early in the game.
Yep.
But for the most part, when he can get the ball out on time, he's a great touch and timing type thrower.
So Debo has this graphic up if you're listening on the audio version. 3 of the last 5 starting quarterbacks to win at Alabama went on to win the Heisman that season. So for me, we're talking 2nd round or better right now for Quinn.
Yes, and if he continues, he'll be a 1st rounder.
All right.
Not yet, but he's moving in that direction.
The arrow is pointing up, as Mike Tomlin likes to say. Debo has a request. Let's rank the Texas prospects here. So we have Quinn Ewers. Xavier Worthy gets better in each and every time I watch him. Undersized. I think he weighed unofficially 166 before the season, but he's running past people, and he has a little – this is the first name that popped in my head, and you can laugh and correct me, but he has a little Deshaun Jackson in his game that he gets behind the defense with deep speed.
Yeah, my comp was Jordan Addison.
Oh, all right. We're not far apart.
No. The difference is that Worthy had 2 drops that bothered me. He dropped a touchdown, and I think he had another opportunity where he dropped one. But I do see the separation speed, and you've seen the separation speed. And we'll talk about Kool-Aid on that little flat route in the red zone, where it was a great throw by Ewers, but he has to make that catch. And then the other one was the underthrown deep ball. But one thing I'll say for a skinny kid, or a skinny receiver.
Yeah.
On 3rd and 4, there was a great play where they threw to him along the sideline, and he spun out of a tackle and got a 1st down that kept the clock moving late in the game.
Yeah, I actually wrote down plays bigger than his size. His good contact balance will bounce off tacklers if they don't wrap him up. And that goes to your point. He certainly, sort of like Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith weighs 125 pounds. He certainly plays bigger than that. Different players, but the point being that even though Xavier Worthy doesn't weigh a lot on the scale, I think he plays a little stronger than that. 5 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. He, for me, is a top 50 guy. Like I thought maybe a late day 2 guy coming into the season, but you mentioned the drops, but I think those are, I don't want to say fixable, but I feel okay about those if I'm drafting him on day 2.
Yeah. Right now I see him as a Friday guy, 2nd rounder.
All right, my guy, Jatavian Sanders, 5 receptions, 114 yards. Back-to-back weeks, he had a long reception that just outran everyone to the end zone. I give him credit for trying to block people.
Oh, my God.
He's just not there yet. But he's in the way, but he's not doing the job that a tight end.
Turner did to him, and Dallas Turner was late getting across the formation to line up. It threw him out of the bar.
Oh, boy. But in terms of down the field, I like him as a target. He's an athletic tight end. He's not Kyle Pitts athletic, but he's maybe a little below Evan Ingram athletic.
He's not Kincaid athletic. He's not Musgrave athletic.
I'll put him a hair below Kincaid. I don't think he's that. There's not a big difference, I don't think. Do you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why you're down on him. All right. So if you're ranking these prospects,
I mean, he made some catches. He made big plays. I give him credit. I didn't think he was as athletic as he's showing this year. So I was a little down on him from that standpoint.
You're coming around.
His run after catch is better than I anticipated. I thought he's doing more with the ball in his hands than he did last year. But God, the blocking, that has to definitely improve.
Yeah, just put him in the slot. I think I like him, like round 2 feels about right for me. Is that too rich for you?
Yeah, I think he's a Friday guy. If he can go, I'm okay with that.
And if you're ranking these guys, you're going Ewers, Worthy, and then Sanders if we're ranking the Texas players?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Not too far apart. Pop, Debo. Got pops, so I got to update our list, and maybe I'll show it on a future show because I got to keep track of our pops and drops. Next up, let's go to the other side of the ball. You want to talk about Kool-Aid now? Because I'll be honest with you, Debo gave me so much homework, I didn't go back and watch the Alabama defenders except for the broadcast, so I don't have a lot to say on them. I saw the Kool-Aid play you were talking about. It wasn't really a pass breakup. I think Worthy was the one who dropped the ball there near the sidelines, close to the end zone. But he was around the ball. While I was watching that game early on, I was like, is Dallas Turner hurt? Because I didn't see him out there a lot. He popped later. But tell me about the defensive side of the ball.
Yep. Kool-Aid to me was a drop this week.
Ooh, okay.
So got beat in a one-on-one situation by Worthy in the end zone. And then Mitchell, the young kid that I don't know why you keep bringing up, and Debo keeps bringing up these guys that are not eligible for the draft. I don't know if he's eligible.
Mitchell is, yeah. The wide receiver for Texas. He's eligible.
He made a great catch over Kool-Aid along the sideline. Kool-Aid was in perfect position, but he has to make that play. He didn't make that play. He was okay in run support, but he has to play better. And the one question on Kool-Aid, even though he's our number 1 corner coming out so far, is the speed. And if he does not have a cushion, does he have the speed to play man coverage at the next level? But still, all the instincts and everything I don't have a concern with. I just thought for being the number 1 corner that he gave up too many plays that he should have made versus Texas, those 2 in particular.
Still a first-round pick, though.
Yes.
All day long. Okay. Dallas Turner, number 15, edge rusher, not replacing, but now the primary show in town that Will Anderson's made his way to Houston Texans.
Explosive. He took your guy, Sanders, and just threw him out of the bar. He's very explosive out of his hips in the run game. He stood up offensive tackles all night. He didn't have the pass rush stats, but the one thing that really sticks out to him, he has very good first step quickness. He comes off with leverage. He'll jolt the offensive tackle back. Now, I'll give Texas credit in their game plan because they always were sliding the protection to him, or they had some kind of chip help trying to take him out of the game so he wouldn't wreck the game. I think he still needs to develop a counter once he gets the offensive tackle back on his heels. But I thought he played hard, even though the pass rush stats didn't show up. He still had some effect on the quarterback, but they're going to have to figure out a way if teams are going to game plan, because I don't know if they have a Will Anderson opposite of like they've had the last 2 years of Dallas Turner. And Dallas Turner is going to get all the attention now. How do you scheme him to get him a little bit freer or get him in one-on-one situations and pass protection?
Braswell's the other edge rusher, but not quite the level of.
Not quite Will Anderson yet.
Right. At this point in the process, 2 weeks into the season, where does Dallas Turner rank this year compared to Will Anderson last year?
Well, Will Anderson was struggling a little bit last year early in the season as well. So I think he's right up there with him right now. And I really like the way he plays the run. And he is bigger. When I saw him in person this summer during a scrimmage down at Alabama, he is bigger than what you anticipate. He is a thickly built kid through his lower, just like Will Anderson was. The last guy I do want to mention is J.C. Latham. I watched him at right tackle. he is a dominant run blocker. He was very good in pass pro. He got mixed up in some games, but overall, he is a mountain of a man, and he creates movement at the point and dislodges people once he puts his hands on them. And if I had to rank him right now, I would put him ahead of Darnell Wright at this point.
Oh,
seen in Tennessee.
Interesting. So we talked about it during the summer scouting series where the offensive line class, at least at the top, feels deeper than the 5 offensive linemen went in last year's draft class. So right now, Olaf Ashanu, Penn State, I think you and I both agree he's still number 1 for us.
Yep.
Joe Alt's number 2 for me out of Notre Dame. Is J.C. Latham higher than Joe Alt for you?
Yeah, I didn't see Joe Alt. I haven't got back to done the tape yet on Alt yet, but he's going to be pushing for the number 2 offensive tackle off the board. But yeah. I like him better than I like Darnell Wright last year.
Yeah, and again, credit to Darnell Wright, who moved from left tackle to right tackle. We weren't necessarily talking him up at this point in the process. He did himself some favors by playing really well. But J.C. Latham, we've known about, and to your point, he looks like a house out there, and you got to run around him. Quick aside, speaking of houses, Jack Conklin went down unfortunately for the Browns. He's done for the season in the ACL. DeJuan Jones came in and he held his own.
Yeah.
Now the question is, you got to keep him focused. That's it, right?
Yep. Yeah, because he had a really good preseason, but. Debo, for the record, Kool-Aid McAllister was a drop for me this week.
McKinstry.
That's a wild one. He's yelling at me for putting qualified eligible draft prospects, and he's calling him Kevin McAllister.
Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. They just called him Kevin McAllister.
Kool-Aid. I'm sorry. Debo just puts tons of homework on us. You got 150 guys you have to do every week for this.
By the way, I'm making a note. Kevin McAllister is our new nickname for Kool-Aid. By the way, it's disrespectful to give Home Alone a drop. Home Alone is always a pop.
Yeah.
Okay, drop for Kool-Aid. Drop for Rick for not knowing Kool-Aid's name.
Yeah, I get a drop.
All right, Dallas.
Give a pop to Dallas, and I'm going to give a pop to JC.
Perfect. All right. Love it. Man, Kevin McAllister, that's an all-timer. We need a list, Debo. By the way, when we do the merchandise, we have to have, did we talk about this, Debo, having the names on the back that Rick mispronounces? I'll take that as a yes. All right. We're going to keep going here. No break because we got a lot to get to. Oh, he was getting the Kevin McAllister gift ready for us.
I didn't know that was that kid's name.
That makes it even worse. All right.
I know 2 actors.
Who? Josh Duhamel, and who else?
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Those are the only actors movies I watched.
Well, you played golf with Josh.
And I played golf with Josh. I didn't know he was an actor. Just kidding.
You didn't know when he got in the cart, or did you?
No, because he was the Colonel in the Transformer guys.
Interesting. I love Josh Duhamel. Handsome devil. All right, here we go. Man, Rick, I watched this guy last year, and we talked a lot about this Miami UNC game a lot over the course of just talking about the players. Tyreek Stevenson didn't have a great game, as I recall. Tyler Van Dyke didn't play great in that game, as I recall. Stevenson's playing well for the Bears right now as a rookie, which is a fun story. But Tyler Van Dyke took to heart what we said, Rick, and he used it as motivation. And my man went absolutely off. Just a quick note here. He's had 3 offensive coordinators in his 3 years. Had a ton of injuries last year. They showed his mom in the stands, and she wears a Van Dime shirt, like dropping dimes, which I think is pretty funny. And against Texas A&M, which is a good football team, and they have some dudes on defense, he was doing just that. 21 of 30, 374, 5 touchdowns. Man, he looked clinical. Again, like yours, he does not have a great arm. He's not as athletic as yours, so take that for what it's worth. But he throws with anticipation. He was throwing guys open, threw a great deep ball. What are your concerns, if any, with the way Tyler Van Dyke, what he did for himself on Saturday?
Day from what I saw last year.
Yes, sir.
So he was anticipating and throwing with much more confidence. He looked more poised and patient in the pocket. Last year, he looked like he was just waiting to get hit, which was the case most of the time. He's not a run threat. He's a pocket passer. But the one thing that I think when I was watching him and what I noticed was, I agree. I think he has a stronger arm than you're giving him credit for.
You might be right. I just know, look at my notes. It looked better than it did last year.
Yeah. Well, I think his arm's stronger than yours arm. So just
okay, fair enough.
So you were wrong on that.
I'll take the credit. I'll take the drop on that one.
But the one thing that he needs to do is he stares down his receiver still. And one time I seen him move his eyes where he was going through his progressions, looked to his left, and then came and threw a shot deep in the middle. But other than that, he seemed to really stare down his receivers. I still think he needs to use his eyes better, especially to move safeties on the back end.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to still get through his progressions because he has a tendency to lock on his first target or his first option. And I didn't see him get through the progressions like I need to see him. But huge step from watching him last year.
Let me ask you, because talking about getting through those reads, because I made this note as I was watching him. I said he didn't get through his reads often, and I thought maybe in part because read number one was either open a lot or he threw them open. So is that a good thing or a bad thing, or do you need to see more to make sure?
Yeah, teams are going to take the number one option away. It's not going to be, the options were open as first. So I'm giving him credit for throwing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not discount. I'm just saying there's going to be a point where he has to get through his progressions, and I want to see him do that consistently, especially if you're going to be a pocket passer and not be able to make plays with your legs.
So he's not yet in the Quinn Ewers, Shedeur Sanders category, I don't think, right?
No, but he brought himself from, as we used to say, the boneyard.
Yeah.
Actually brought himself back to life.
I mean, I'm thinking early day 3 right now, just based on that one game. And if he continues that way, because you overdraft quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think he's draftable. I didn't think he was draftable off last year's performance.
Yeah. So good performance from Tyler Van Dyke. Great performance, let's be honest. Great win against Texas A&M. They were down early and they came back. So credit to him for not panicking. Credit to that offense for not panicking. All right, let's go to Texas Tech, where my guy Bo Nix went there. Also led a comeback for the Oregon Ducks. Again, he looks like a different player than he was at Auburn. Part of that's probably different school, different. What's that?
The system.
Different school, different system on them, so on and so forth. He's older. Finished 32 of 44 for 359 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rushed 9 times for 46 yards. And they trailed 27-18 to start the fourth quarter. And he, again, they had the field goals at the end, but he let them down the field. I thought he's a good athlete. He won with his feet a lot downfield. He can buy time behind the line of scrimmage with that athleticism. Has a pretty good arm. He throws a catchable deep ball. I thought watching him after I'd watched Tyler and Quinn, not quite as polished as a passer as those two, but the athleticism is a little better. So it's a trade-off. He's older, so he has the experience, but I would imagine he'll continue to get better. I'd like to see a little more accuracy on the short and intermediate throws to give his receivers a chance for yards after catch. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good performance.
Yeah, his just charting him this game, and I give him credit. He's better. I'm still not jumping on the Bo Nix bandwagon yet, although I think he has some it factor to him because of what he did in the fourth quarter and brought them back, and he had some it factor to him last year in the tapes that I watched as well. But I don't think he's a very accurate quarterback throwing the ball at the intermediate level.
Yeah.
10 to 20 yards, especially outside the numbers. I think he has to improve there. I think most of his shots are within 0 to 10 yards down the field, and then lets the athleticism of his playmakers add yardage to what he's throwing. And I don't think he's a great deep ball thrower myself. I don't.
Okay.
And I think he takes minimal shots down the field. My question is, can this offense and what he's running, can he have that same production in an NFL type system? My comparison to him was Josh Stidham.
Okay. Wait, Jared Stidham.
Or Jared Stidham, sorry.
You were talking about Josh Duhamel. One of the other notes I made, he takes care of the ball, but occasionally he has these turnover-worthy plays. And you don't see Shedeur Sanders, for example, have many turnover-worthy plays. Ewers doesn't have many turnover-worthy plays. So that's something you have to take in consideration because, we saw this with Zach Wilson. It will get exacerbated at the next level if you're a quote-unquote gunslinger in college and then you're just throwing interceptions left and right.
Those type of throws in the NFL, you get eaten alive.
Right. All right. So what are you giving him?
Drop.
Okay, you got a drop for Bo. I'm going to give him a pop for helping that team get back. So we'll just disagree there, and that's fine.
That's what we're supposed to do.
That's what makes the world go round, Rick. I have him as a day 2 guy. Is that too rich for you?
He's a day 3 guy for me.
Okay. All right. This guy ain't a day 3 guy. Doesn't play quarterback either. Great news, by the way. Jerzon Newton, the defensive tackle for Illinois, his nickname's Johnny, so you can just call him Johnny from now on.
Oh.
They went down to Kansas, and they got shellacked early and then came back. Jalen Daniels is an interesting prospect that we'll get to over the course of the old pre-draft process, the quarterback there. But motor is through the roof for Newton. He didn't get tired as the game went on, and I'm sure that's one of the things that you're looking at when the big guys in the middle, how many plays are they out there? And in the fourth quarter, are they dragging because they running up and down the field? I didn't see that from him at all. I thought his motor's through the roof. Lick lower half. I said thick lower half. I don't know what lick Thor means, but he's thick, plays with heavy hands. He regularly stood up the offensive lineman, and I thought he was in the backfield frequently, either harassing the quarterback or making plays to disrupt the run game. And he's a really good athlete. I thought he's pretty quick for someone that size. I thought he had a good game. And for me, he's going to get drafted pretty high.
Yep, he's a first rounder. I gave him a pop. And the only negative, I would agree with everything that you said. The only negative I would say is that when you give that effort that he gives to get to the ball on outside runs, don't miss the tackle.
He did the hard part.
Yeah, he missed 3 tackles that trying to light him up without wrapping up. And those are the things that he has to clean up. But I love his leverage and strength at the point versus run. Every once in a while, he'll pop up trying to look at where the running back is. And when he does, he loses his leverage and will get turned at the point. He was a better pass rusher because I think he looks quicker and more explosive even this year. Great job using his hands to prevent from getting locked on when the offensive guard is punching him. Great job using his hands, and he can close to the quarterback. He has a really good burst to close to the quarterback, and he plays with a hot motor. And that was a knock on Mozzie Smith last year out of Michigan.
Yep.
He can play, but he doesn't play with a hot motor all the time. And someone pointed out to me, well, what do you expect? They're playing 80 snaps a game. This kid plays 80 snaps a game and plays with his motor hot the whole game.
Yeah, that defense was out there early and often in that slow start against Kansas. But I agree. He was my defensive tackle 1 coming in. That hasn't changed. As we get through these guys, we'll see how that works out. So you already answered this tease here, Rick. Who was quarterback 3 for you? Is Shedeur. Is anyone going to run down Drake May? Because they almost lost to Appalachian State.
Yeah, I didn't see that tape. So, but no, it's going to be Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then the race for number 3, in my opinion, is there's a gap between the top 2 and then who is number 3. But like I said, there is 6 or 7 quarterbacks that are racing for that number 3 position.
Yeah, Debo put the list together for us. So Shedeur is your number 3. Quinn and Shedeur are basically 3A and 3B for me, and different players clearly, and we'll just see how the season unfolds as we get through this thing. But they both had good weeks. Some other names in the mix: Michael Penix Jr. We've seen him. His arm is still sore from all those deep balls he's thrown. We talked about Spencer Rattler in the UNC game. They're playing Georgia this week. That'll be a test for him. Jordan Travis, Jaden Daniels, my guy Riley Leonard, J.J. McCarthy at Michigan, Joe Milton at Tennessee. I mean, the list goes on and on. So we have a lot of guys to sort through. All these guys are getting drafted if they come out, just a matter of where. And one more thing, Rick, before we take a break. 5-star prospect. We asked for it. We got him from the viewers and listeners. And the first one we're going to cover today. Remember, if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we'll give us a name.
Oh, I misinterpreted that.
What'd you take that as?
I took it as that he was like a 5-star coming out of high school.
He was a 3-star according to Debo's notes. So the point is, if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Yes. Yeah, he was a 5-star. Who cares?
Well, you did the homework, so it doesn't matter. You just misunderstood the instructions. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave a name of a player you want us to evaluate, and we'll do it. And here's our guy this week. Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma quarterback, transfer from UCF. Undersized, 5'11", 207. So far this season, through 2 games, he's completed 78% of his throws, 484 yards, 6 touchdowns. Yet to throw an interception. And I'm going to give you my comp first, just so it'll make you angry. He's left-handed, and he has a little funky throw motion.
Say Tua. Please don't say Tua.
No, I'm not going to say Tua. I think you might like this one. When I made this comp, I had a good feeling in my heart that you would like this. He doesn't have the best arm, but throws it with anticipation. Throws a good deep ball because he gets a lot of air into the ball. Layers the ball to the second level. Really good athlete in space. As a passer, my comp, Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore, the coach?
Yeah. Remember he came out?
Oh, my God. I started taking Predigen, but I can't remember that far. It hasn't kicked in yet.
What does Predigen do?
It's supposed to help your memory. I saw it on an advertisement.
Oh, okay. And as a runner, he reminded me a little bit of Russ Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that.
Oh, good.
So I think that he is athletic enough. He's small, which he's not going to get away with in the NFL. I think they run that a little bit of a gimmicky type offense too at Oklahoma, where he has to get the ball out of his hands. I don't know if you'd even think he's a little bit Stetson Bennett-ish. If
maybe, yeah.
That would be the guy that popped into my head when I watched him a little bit. Knows how to win at the collegiate level. I don't know. And Georgia's system is way different than Oklahoma's system, but veteran. He's a kid that had all the knee injuries, right? Didn't think he was going to be able to come back. Was that the kid at Central Florida that had the significant knee injury?
That I don't remember, because I don't think so, because he didn't.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm not sure about that, but he played 3 years at Central Florida, and then he started 12 games last year for Oklahoma when he came over, leaving there. He had 367. He had over 300 rushing yards last year, so he can run a little bit. And he's got, what's he got this year? Just 35 rush yards this year, but does have a touchdown. But I think he's probably priority free agent type. Like he's,
yeah.
I don't think
he's draftable right now. I think he would be a priority free agent type guy.
But I mean, he'll get into a camp and it'll be up to him. But obviously having a good start to the season for Oklahoma and a good game against SMU where he threw 4 touchdowns and a win last Saturday.
Yep. I'd be interested to see when they get into the meat of the schedule if he can still produce the way he produced early against some lesser opponents.
Yeah. In fact, last year he completed 63% of his passes, had 25 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Oklahoma didn't have a great season by Oklahoma standards, but he's trying to build on those numbers this year. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We are deep into this podcast, Rick. When we get back, we're going to talk about some of these rookies, starting with the quarterbacks.
We don't get a try run, we only get one life. So enjoy the ride. Just live your life, one day at a time. Enjoy the ride.
All right, Rick, we're going to go through the quarterbacks first, and then we'll go through our top 5 rookie performances from the non-quarterback class, although quarterbacks can certainly make that list as well. And we're going to go through these quarterbacks as I rank their efforts in their debuts on Sunday. None of the rookies won. And in fact, I got a not so fun fact for you. The last time a rookie first overall pick, let me see, last first-round quarterback to win his first career start was Tua in week 8 of 2020. And then the other crazy fact was the last number 1 overall pick to win his first career start. Do you know who that was?
No.
David Carr, 2002.
Jesus. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, as my mother-in-law, bless her soul, used to say.
Right, absolutely. So Debo has the graphic on here. If you're listening, first-round quarterbacks are 0-10 in the first start of the last 3 seasons. And I think Kyler actually tied in his debut, so he's actually the real winner among these guys. But Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Jordan Love, all lost. Kenny Pickett lost. And these rookies that we're about to talk about did not fare any better. But I think there's some encouraging signs. My number 1 quarterback in terms of how I rank the 3 rookies who started, number 1, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that I would agree, because the reason I would say that is because he's going to stick out more than CJ and more than Bryce because of his athleticism, because he can run around and make some unique plays with his legs. And he does have a rocket for an arm. There's still questions with his accuracy.
Yep.
And him getting through his reads. But he would stick out because he's just a superior athlete with that size. So he's going to make more splash plays that jump out at you than the other 2 did.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at my notes. He took some needless sacks, had too many turnover-worthy plays. Need to clean that up. And I said where Bryce and CJ needed to be perfect on those field side outs, AR5 didn't need to because he threw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So even if it was just a little bit inside to the receiver, the field side, it's still the DB didn't have time to get there. Those are things that obviously want to clean up. And let me ask you about the way the game ended. Jalen Hurts, when he runs, he knows to slide or get out of bounds. It feels like Anthony Richardson is taking the RG3 rookie season approach and just trying to run people over. Different body frames, but of course RG3, that shortened his career. And he ended up getting his shoulder banged up late in the game. And then I think later it was diagnosed as a bone bruise. He had come back in for one more play. How do you explain to him that he can't do that?
Well, when you get your arse knocked around and take some of the hits that he's going to take, if he doesn't learn how to get down, he'll learn pretty quick, or he's just a numbskull. So,
and he's a good kid. He's not a dumb kid. So you hopefully
kid.
Yeah.
It's just in order to survive in this league as a running quarterback, you have to know when to go down and live for another battle. And you're not going to truck guys at this level. You may have been able to do that at college, but here they're going to light you up and you can only take so many hits. And that's the one thing that I'm sure that the coaching staff and everybody is telling him, listen, when it's over, just go down.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get the first down. But you still don't want to take away that electric playmaking ability either. So there's a fine line. And the only way you're going to learn that is through experience.
Yeah. And the next to last running play that he had where he hurt his shoulder and came out for a minute and Gardner Minshew came in, that was Josh Allen, Jaguars edge rusher, that stacked him up. You're not running through Josh Allen. He's a grown-ass man. So lesson learned. But I think you have to be extremely excited if you're a Colts fan and if you're Chris Ballard and if it's not too big for him.
No, it's not going to be too big for him because of his athleticism. And what he lacks is being a quarterback right now. He makes up with his unique athletic ability.
Okay. Let's go to Atlanta. Bryce Young made his debut down there for the Carolina Panthers. He's number 2 on my list I had all these guys ranked pretty closely together. He finished 20 of 38, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Both interceptions are the most un-Bryce-like interceptions you'll see. Both times Jesse Bates, the center fielder / safety, was standing in the middle of the field. For some reason, Bryce is throwing it in, but he didn't see the backside safety and just threw it right to Jesse Bates. Maybe the second interception, he thought the receiver was going to cut in front of the safety. It didn't happen, but I would imagine, and I think Bryce said afterwards that he can't make those throws. I thought he threw with anticipation, which he's known to do. I thought he moved pretty well in the pocket. You talked about it at Alabama. Sometimes he left the pocket early. I didn't think he did that here. And I thought overall, I'll give him a C+.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. The thing is that these young quarterbacks have to learn is that the throws that you were able to complete in college, you're not going to be able to complete in the NFL. So when you have a Jesse Bates who has played a long time in the league and has played at a very high level, and he knows how to bait the quarterback times and maybe just kind of sit there and see and reading the quarterback's eyes and the jump that he gets on those throws, that's what young quarterbacks are going to have to learn, what you can get away with and what you can't get away with in this league. And sometimes you have to make those type of mistakes to understand and to grow from going forward.
Frank Reich was unconcerned with the way Bryce said he performed, he said afterwards. But here are the week 1 starting quarterbacks under Frank Reich going back to 2018 to present day. Every year, it's someone different. Andrew Luck in 2018, then Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and finally Bryce Young. So I'm sure the plan is to make sure this year's starting quarterback on week 1 is the same one for next year and the year beyond that.
Yeah, and Bryce Young, knowing Bryce Young and knowing what type of character and person he is, that he will learn from these experiences. And I can almost bet that he's not going to make some of these same mistakes you're seeing early in the season, that those won't be the same mistakes that he's making at the end of the season.
No, I agree. All right, finally, C.J. Stroud. And again, there wasn't a huge difference between these 3 quarterbacks, but I ranked him for the sake of the internet. 28 of 44, 242 passing yards, didn't throw a touchdown, didn't have any turnovers either, or didn't have an interception. First player to catch his own first career completion since 1992. Out of Southern Miss. Do you go to Southern Miss? I think you went to Southern Miss.
Who? Yeah, that one you got me on.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. Wow.
Southern Miss, right?
Southern Miss. Yep.
Yeah.
Hattiesburg.
So, interestingly enough, Des Ridder also caught his own pass on Sunday, but he's a year 2 quarterback. So here's the thing. C.J. Stroud, I thought he looked out of sorts early, but he also wasn't playing the Falcons defense.
No. And against a pretty good Baltimore defense. And the one thing that I really noticed they were bringing pressure from all different sides of the field. And sometimes 4-man rush, sometimes 5-man rush. And that is hard on a young quarterback. And learning what the coverages are behind those pressure packages that Baltimore was sending. You've seen you've seen the arm talent. There's no question he has the ability to play in the league. But just like we talked about these other two, you're going to have to learn and grow from that experience that you just went through.
Yeah, he threw his anticipation on some comebacks. I love that. Looked like he felt comfortable just throwing slants all day long, usually to Nico Collins, just getting the ball out. If it got past the first defender there, made some anticipation throws, as I mentioned. He took a red zone sack late, and I think the Ravens brought 5 or 6, and you would like to have seen him get the ball out quickly. But at that point, your head is probably swimming because these are things you have literally never seen in person, right?
No, and you don't see it in the preseason either. So
right.
The only way you learn is by going through some of these growing pains when the regular season starts, and you get more experience under your belt, what's probably coming your way. But that takes time.
So if you're the coaches, go ahead. Sorry, what'd you say?
You need to be patient with these young guys. Because
all right, that's my next question.
Yep.
If you're the GM or coaches for these 3 teams, you're satisfied with how week 1 went, right?
Well, you're not satisfied. You lost.
With your quarterback's performance.
You're not satisfied, but you know that was a great experience for them, and that this guy is probably going to continue to grow and progress through the season. The more experiences and the more that he sees.
Exactly. You're not like, oh my God, what did we do? You feel pretty good about
Yep.
the long-term prospects for sure. All right, let's talk about the top 5 rookies from week 1 of the NFL seasons. No quarterback made that list. We'll see if that changes. We're going to reverse order here, and it's a wild world we're living in where my number 5 top rookie performer for week 1 is Bijan Robinson. But I thought we had some good performances in week 1. You can disagree with my list in terms of the rankings. Bijan, 10 rushes, 56 yards. He did have a receiving touchdown. His very first pass, which was basically he was sidecar to Des Ridder. It was a little forward lateral, basically. He got introduced to Brian Burns right quick when Caleb McGarry, the right tackle, decided not to block anyone. It's a rare occasion that you see Bijan get blown up, held into the ball, but it was just something that got my attention. Not quite as much as that touchdown catch he had on a little swing pass. Came in motion, went back.
How about those moves?
So Frankie Louvu had no chance. He was shot out of a cannon, and Frankie Louvu missed him. And then he ran through 2 other Panthers arm tackles on his way to the end zone.
Unbelievable balance off contact.
Worth the number 8 overall pick.
Worthy, yes.
So listen, we sort of compared him to Saquon. I don't know if was Saquon your comp for him as well coming out?
I think there was a lot of comparisons to Saquon, but I think this guy is a better pass catcher and going to be more impactful in the passing game. Even though Saquon is does a lot of screens and things, I think that this kid just has a little more juice, and that juice, when he sees a crease, when he's running the ball from 0 to 60, he is gone.
And the problem is, if you're a safety and he's got an 8-yard head start and he hits full speed and he's 10 yards from you, you may not get a finger on him. He is so elusive.
No, and the contact bound, you have to wrap him up because he stays on his feet after contact.
I'm going to ask you a crazy question. In terms of sheer running comparison, different size, different player, but he feels like he runs angry in the same way that Adrian Peterson ran angry. Is that too much?
I think it's too much.
Okay.
Different style runners, because I think even though Adrian was not as elusive to stop and start, and Adrian it hurt defenders to hit Adrian. I mean, it actually hurt defenders to hit, and he wore them down as the game went along. And I think Bijan is a little bit better at avoiding contact or making a sidestep, even though Adrian was great and the acceleration that Adrian had, but he was just so unique from a physical build standpoint that it was like, God, that had to hurt to hit him.
I still have in my memory, I think I mentioned this before, but William Gay out of Louisville, who played nickelback for the Steelers for a long time, really good player. I remember it may have been in the 09 game. He got concussed where he had the reflex where your arms go up. At the time, people didn't think concussions were serious. He didn't come back in that game, but I talked to him about it afterwards, and I said, what happened there? He said, man, I just got in the way. Like, I think he just got kneed in the head, and that's just, to your point, everything on Adrian Peterson hurts you to touch. And
yes, including a handshake.
All right. Number 4 on my list. Again, I can't believe this guy's number 4 based on his rookie debut. No Cooper Kupp in Los Angeles for the Rams. Matthew Stafford looked revitalized. The Seahawks looked terrible. I picked them to do better things than what we saw in their debut. But our guy, Puka Nacua out of BYU, excuse me, my man went absolutely off. 10 receptions, 119 receiving yards, most receiving yards in an NFL debut in Rams history. Most receiving yards in an NFL debut by a player drafted in the 5th round or later since your guy, Joey Clinkscales, in 1987. So we watched his catches, and I remember looking at his I went back and looked at his scouting report from over the draft process. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. He's a big receiver, 6'1", 200 pounds, ran in the 4.5s. So he's not a burner, but he played faster than he timed. The issue I had with him was the sort of precision route running at times, and that sort of showed up. I didn't think he was necessarily a great route runner, but he found the holes in the zones against the Rams, showed the ability to catch the ball away from his body. He ran through some arm tackles early, and the very last target, a man stacked up Tyreek Woolen, who's a 4.2 guy, and had the throw been 6 inches closer, it might have been down to the 1 or a touchdown. So I give him credit for outrunning Tyreek Woolen to the end zone near the end of that game.
Yeah, no, he played like a savvy veteran, especially against the zone coverage where he just knew how to get open. The play that probably stuck out to me the most was the 3rd and 7 where he ran that corner route in the late in the game, 4th quarter, I think, and kept the drive alive, which I thought was a critical piece to them, putting the finishing touches on Seattle. But I still don't think he is a burner. I don't know how he's going to do in man coverage. He is tough as nails coming inside, knowing he's going to make the catch and still get hit. But credit and kudos to Les Snead and that staff for at least this week. I don't think anyone anticipated him having opening debut, but it did catch up attention, not only on people in the media, but it'll catch the attention of whoever they play next. And he won't be a secret anymore.
No, I thought he was going to be a day 3 guy. He went in the 5th round, and just goes to show you, once you get drafted, it's up to you. So credit to him for having a huge debut. Tutu Atwell also went over 100 yards in that game for the Rams. All right, let's go to Foxborough. And this guy almost made Debo cry with how the Eagles played it down the stretch here. Christian Gonzalez is number 3 on my rankings this week. 7 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Had a quarterback hit and a pass breakup late. Listen, it is no easy task going up against A.J. Brown, as you see here on YouTube, and Devonta Smith. And he took some lumps, Christian Gonzalez did, but his movement skills are incredibly impressive. The athleticism to change direction. He is long. He's the longest cornerback on that roster by what feels like 7 or 8 inches. Came off a corner blitz, off a tight split, and did something that very few people can do. He wrapped up Jalen Hurts on first contact, and he wasn't known as a tackler at Oregon. That's one of the questions we had, the physicality. I thought he showed more physicality in this game than we saw in college. And he had a great pass breakup on the 4th and 2 late in the game that got the ball back to Mac Jones and that offense for a chance to win. Again, he took some lumps, but he also made some plays, Rick. So that's why I have him number 3.
Yeah, I would say the first half he was still feeling his way. He still gives a little bit too much cushion, gave some easy completions up, but he seemed to gain confidence as the game went along. Great play on that slant route, breaking that slant route up. You get 3 stats for that sack. You get a tackle for loss, you get a quarterback hit, and you get a sack. So that ding, 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 3 categories when he came off the edge. Uncontested, by the way, but still did a great job wrapping up Jalen Hurts. But very good first impression. I still think he needs to be a little tighter in coverage, especially when he's off. He gave up a little bit too much cushion, but I think he improved from the first half to how he played the second half.
And again, you have to feel pretty good about that, I would imagine, because he fell in the draft down to the middle of the first round, and he wasn't the first cornerback taken. He might have been in the third. I know that Devin Witherspoon went first, and then Emmanuel Forbes went around that area as well. But he looked the part. He looked like the guy that we saw last year, plus the physicality in the run game, I thought.
Yep.
All right, number 2 on my list. And we can't forget about this guy, even though that Thursday night game feels like it was 2 decades ago. Brian Branch, somehow a second-round pick, should have been a first-round pick. 3 tackles and had that pick 6. Now, you could say the pick 6 was lucky. Well, he still had to one-hand catch it and run 50 yards to the end zone, and he did that. Skill. I thought his movement skills in short areas is incredibly impressive. Yeah, he ran the 4.6. I don't care. He doesn't play like 4.6. He's incredibly smooth in terms of change direction, whether it's east, west, north, or south. Wrap-up tackler in space. He is looking to run through somebody, and that's what you want to see from your slot corner. And I had very few issues. He got confused a few times by Patrick Mahomes. I think the touchdown in the end zone to the tight end, Blake Bell, he messed up that coverage, and you could see him put his hands on his head after the play, and I think the safety was saying, yo, this is your guy. But other than that, A's across the board.
Yeah, no, he is a man playing in the nick. And the one thing that really impressed me, he is not shy.
Woo.
He's not shy of contact. And that interception that he made, that is skill to pick, because that ball was Kadarius Toney kind of dropped that ball, but it fluttered up into the air. And to some corners don't have that ball skill, that they may have dropped that. But he looked natural when he went and picked that ball up in the air. And then he wasn't 4.6 after he caught it and got into the end zone. He can run. So this is a prime example of a very good football player that maybe some people passed on because he didn't run the 40 that you wanted him to run, but he plays fast and he's physical and he's aggressive and he has ball skills. How
do you feel like my list so far in terms of the rankings? You okay with it?
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
All right.
Based off it, I'm not going to argue with you on anything. You can make a case either way for all these guys.
All right, then. Lastly, do you agree that Jalen Carter is number 1 on this list?
Ooh, I think he showed the unique athletic traits that he has.
Sweet mercy. Let me say this first. Cole Strange and Michael Owenu were out, the starting guards for New England. And you know who started? Antonio Mafi, the rookie, and Sidney So, the rookie. And they got introduced to the NFL right quick when Jalen Carter was out there.
Yeah, no, everything that we talked about on, he was the best defensive player. If you just looked at the tape, the biggest concern was him. Does he play hard every snap? Which he played hard every snap.
Yes, he did.
He
sure did.
There's no question. And all the off-field issues that he had to deal with through the pre-draft process. But on the field, if they can get the effort that they got out of him this week, he's going to be a wrecking ball in the one. He was one of my guys as a candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I said that he had to get at least 9 to 10 sacks to even be considered that, which is difficult from the defensive tackle position. But he kind of made a statement game out there.
He's got one of those sacks already. He had 8 pressures, 7 hurries, 1 sack, 25% pass rush win rate. And they line him up at 0 a lot. If you're Dave Andrews, the last thing you want to see is probably Jalen Carter right over your nose, right?
Yeah, and he's going to have a point to prove. And he played week 1 like he had a point to prove. Like all the stuff that was said about him through the pre-draft process, I'm going to show you what type of football player I am. Now, will that continue? I do believe it will through year 1. We'll see what happens down the road. But the first impression you got against England, there's no question he would have been my top guy as well.
Yeah, man.
You think, Bears fans are already regretting trading out of that spot? I've seen some very unhappy Bears fans on social media. A lot of teams passing on them, but they dropped down a spot to trade with the Eagles, who wanted to get them there at 9.
Yeah, because they picked Darnell Wright at 10. Is that correct?
And then they came back and got Jervon Dexter in round 2, the defensive tackle out of Florida.
Right, who's not the same cat as Jalen Carter.
And they clearly, unless Jalen Carter can play quarterback. That might
That's
be
what's
another.
great about this is everybody can make conclusions after week 1. Remember, the NFL season is not a sprint. It is a marathon.
Well, someone didn't tell Jalen Carter that because he was running all over that field like his life depended on it. You're right, man. He played like he was Johnny Newton out of Illinois with that motor. So credit to him for that.
Jahan.
Okay, fair enough. Make it difficult on yourself, Rick. All right, shout outs to some other guys that we were excited by the performances, but we're not going to have a chance to get to. Xavier Gibson returned the punt for the Jets to win that game. Priority free agent, undrafted free agent, who was a priority before the draft, out of Stephen F. Austin, went to the NFL PA Bowl, did not even get a combine invite. So fantastic story there. Of course, your guy Jordan Addison had that touchdown we talked about briefly. Jameer Gibbs with flash in the limited snaps, and Zay Flowers is exactly who we thought he was. He's going to be special as well. I think that's it, Rick, unless you got anything else.
No, that was a packed-filled show of information.
It really was. So Thursday is going to be the mock draft, so I can take a little break. Debo can give me a rest. Sweet mercy alive. This guy's drives a hard bargain. But that's it. That's a wrap on episode 79. Thanks, as always, to my guy, Rick. Thanks to Debo for producing. Thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. We'll be back Thursday for our mock draft spectacular. See you then.